We're live on a Friday to talk about the great Stoics and Stoicism today. And we have one of the most famous Stoic works, you could say, from Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoics. But we obviously did a lot of research looking into this. I know you've looked into this and been a fan of Stoicism for a long time. So for those that don't even know what Stoicism is, can you give us a little idea?
Yeah, I went and I looked it up just to review everything. And the definition of Stoicism is the endurance of pain, okay, and or hardship without the display or feelings of complaint, without complaining about it. So that's the definition of Stoic. You know, you endure pain and hardship and you move on. You don't complain about it. You don't show feelings of depression or this or that. You try to control it and you just move on. And that's the definition.
Yeah.
And we can this is our first podcast
on the Stoics.
And we're going to do quite a few. So
I think that's a powerful opening, though, because the Stoics seem to be trying to control their emotions constantly.
Correct.
Trying to control their desires for, let's say, pleasure, lust, material things. And it's a life of discipline.
Right.
And so, give us a little rundown. I mean, for those who haven't heard of the Stoics, also, you've definitely heard of it or seen it if you've seen the movie Gladiator, right? Because in Gladiator, the Joaquin Phoenix plays Commodus, which is the son of probably the most famous Stoic or one of the most famous Stoics in real life, which was Marcus Aurelius. He was a Roman emperor. So that kind of puts things together. If you've seen the movie Gladiator, then you saw that Joaquin Phoenix played the son of Marcus Aurelius. And there's even there's multiple scenes where Marcus Aurelius is in the movie Gladiator. Obviously, that's a Hollywood portrayal, but you've heard then of the Stoics and the emperor, the Roman Stoics. But Stoicism actually began in Greece.
Yeah.
So, I mean, where do you want to open up? Because there's so much to talk about.
Well, the reason why we decided to talk about the Stoics is because in our everyday business runs, we've come across a few people that they're familiar with the movie Gladiator, but they don't really know what Stoicism is.
Right.
In fact, even our doctor that we met with, something came up in the conversation and I said, well, yeah, that's a Stoic view. And he goes, Stoic, what is that? And then you ended up talking about Gladiator, and he was able to relate to the movie,
Sure.
but he really didn't know, that this is
it's a philosophy.
It's a philosophy that started in Greece, and you have these philosophers like Seneca, Epictetus, of course, Marcus Aurelius, and, it really took hold, and it has spread throughout the world.
Right.
So I'm surprised that there are so many people, or some people that we have come across in our daily events in our business that, they don't know what Stoic is.
Right.
And so that's what prompted us to do this.
Yeah, yeah.
Throughout the years, so we just gave the definition, okay? It's the endurance of pain or hardship without complaining about it. Don't complain about it.
Just push through.
Push through and find a solution. Find a solution to your issues.
Focus on the things you can control.
Right. And so I picked two thoughts of Stoicism that they assemble the essence of the entire philosophy. Because I've been reading about it for many years, because I like it. But one of them that I picked, and this is just my opinion, okay? Epictetus says, you cannot control what happens to us, but we definitely can control how we react or respond to that. And Epictetus said that. And many people that I have followed, like Ryan Holiday and several others, they seem to point out that this is the essence of Stoicism. You know, that you said, you know, something bad happens to you.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot control it because it just happens. It's beyond your control. However, what you can control is the way you react or you respond to that. And in essence, that is the entire ensemble of it, because you either make your life more fruitful and better,
Right.
not only for you, but everybody around you, if you control how you respond to this thing. And it takes self-discipline, you know. It's everything all about introspect. And that's why I like it.
Yeah.
You know, the Stoics have a constant search for knowledge.
Well, it began with, it was a school that was created in Greece by Zeno of Cyprus. Cyprus.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you're right.
Citium. And basically they would get together in a hall, which is what a stoa is. It's like a big hall with those nice pillars and everything, and they would talk. It was a school. And they would just have public conversations. And apparently they believed so much in this philosophy that they didn't want to limit it to only the, let's say, aristocrat, the elite.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to open it up to the public, that every civilian, everybody on earth should have access to this knowledge, whether you were a slave at the time, whether you were a merchant. And that's the story. The founder of Stoicism was, I guess you could say, one of the greatest examples of, you can't control what happens, but how you react to it, you can. He was a merchant who lost his fortune in a shipwreck. And he decided to use that to begin his quest, you could say, of creating this philosophy of life, Stoicism.
Can you imagine? You're wealthy beyond, thoughts, and then all of a sudden you take a chance on this ship coming over with this cargo, and
you lose it all.
You lose it all, and you go from being very, very wealthy to very, very poor overnight. You know, some people can equate that today with people that play the stock market, and they bet more than they should. And anytime you do something like that, the consequences can be dire, but you brought it onto yourself.
Right.
You know? Essentially, they're saying, look, don't point fingers at somebody else. Take responsibility for whatever is happening in your life, because to one extent or another, you were the architect of that situation. Now, I know that there are things completely beyond our control. You know, if you get diagnosed with cancer or a terrible tragedy. So, there are, exceptions.
Well, they talk a lot about death and the future. And we can get into it because I broke it down also, because you have nature is a big topic here, like the universe and destiny and nature. You have a virtue, to be a virtuous man, woman. And then you have death. Those are like some of the topics that undeniably those three, there's more than that, right? They talk about ethics. There's the school. There's also within Stoicism, physics and different ways of different pieces of it. But those three things, and when you talked about health, like getting sick and cancer and things, there was a quote that talks about, something along the lines of every man dies, but not every man dies complaining. And there were a few quotes that I wanted to wait till the very ending to have your, kind of have you process them and us process them together. But I just want to throw one in.
Okay.
Because it has to do with this. And it says, this is from Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, which we'll get into it was his journal, never meant to be public.
That's amazing too.
And but this quote says, to pass through this brief life as nature demands, to give it up without complaint. And you're talking about health situations that happen, and we can't control those, but the Stoics believe that even if you are affected with disease or soon to be death, that you have to face it, but with courage, and you have to leave gracefully.
It's listen, there throughout the years there's another one that I picked, as you said, bring something personal to the table. So the one from Epictetus is one that really, many years ago I read it, and it was something that stayed with me. I can't control, and my uncle, he had a great deal in raising me, and he would tell me all the time, don't worry about the things you cannot control. Worry about the ones you can. And then just figure out figure out the way out.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, I was a kid, but I would hear this all the time from my uncle.
Yeah.
And he was quoting Epictetus, whether he knew it or not. So that was one. And then the other one that many, many years ago I read, and it just, it got embedded in my DNA, It was one that says, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts.
Yeah.
I mean, how much more can be said? The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts.
It's all up here.
It's all
in
up
our
here.
Head.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I read that many, many years ago, and I thought, I got to come back to that. And as you break it down, and also as I've gotten older, it's proven itself time and time and time again, And, they're talking about being true to yourself, because,
Correct.
We're all actors in the stage of life, right? So we're putting on a show technically for everybody. That's what Robert Greene also says.
Correct.
You get up in the morning and you're really...
Well, Robert Greene, I think, like if you're talking about the 48 Laws of Power, I don't think that goes necessarily hand in hand with what the Stoics believe.
No.
Because one of the things is, like, I was reviewing,
the Stoics are not trying to be underhanded or backstabbing or making...
They're talking about being true. A genuine,
right,
true to who you are. Be a kind person. Even if you're going to... And I went back because I circled a lot, and when I was reading it before, and I review it often, this book, even when you do something for someone else, if you even think in your mind that you did that, like if you hold that in your mind that you did something for someone else, you kind of are keeping it as a debt. There's a quote in there, but it goes along those lines. You have to completely let go. You just did it. Just like a fruit tree bears fruit for you to pick it, and it's not expecting anything in return. And that's so hard to put into practice in real life.
Well,
for me.
Is it possible that the fruit tree is expecting for you to water it so that it can continue to nourish itself and bring fruits next year for you again?
Maybe the rain waters it naturally.
Okay.
But sure, yeah. We all need each other. That's another topic that's very present in the Stoics. We all need each other. That's why you have to be virtuous, be kind to the other person. And what does it mean to be virtuous? To be a person of character. What does it mean to be a person of character?
Oh, it's deep. I mean, people have
be true to yourself.
Right.
That's what I think it means.
You have no idea how many movies I watch or episodes of different series that are on Netflix where somebody does something and you hear, you owe me one. Yep. You owe me one.
Yeah.
And, it becomes acceptable. The more you hear it, it's that old saying that if you say a lie, enough times, you end up believing that lie. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's one of those things. It's really, it's not an easy philosophy to follow.
No, in actual practice, it's
Right.
nice in theory, but even we talk about it like when something pops up that unexpected thrown at us, let's say whether it's in a business or it could be a family setting, and not to react emotionally, but
Oh,
to
it's
think
difficult.
logically and you know
Right. Well, the other thing that I was looking at as I was preparing,
objectively.
it's, the Stoics are all about looking introspectively, because they're saying, okay, well, one of the biggest things that you can do as a Stoic is self-reflection. Okay. Then another big thing that you can do as a Stoic is self-improvement. Okay. Then another thing that you can do is develop self-patience. So if you notice, all those sentences start with self, self, self. So is the constant pursuit of virtue by improving yourself daily and trying to improve, the people that are, or extending it to the people that are around you.
Right.
Because a lot of times, you hear about if you change a little granule of salt within your table, okay, could that make a big difference in the world events? And everybody will say no. But if you don't do it, if you don't start somewhere, then nothing is going to change. And so that's what Jordan Peterson says also, because he was being interviewed, I believe, in Australia. And there was a young lady that said, I'm not going to be able to control world events, this and that and whatever. And he spoke to her and said, you'd be surprised. The first thing you have to do is improve yourself. And then once you feel that you have improved yourself, then try to improve the lives of other people near you, your friends, your family. And then you don't know by that movement what that may initiate in one of either your family members or your friends or whatever. They may run for office. And it just may be for the town hallship, but then from there they may run more.
Right.
And depending on that character development. So it started with you. It's just like when you go to school, one teacher. The other day you were telling me that one of your teachers made a tremendous impact in your life, right? Well, same thing. That teacher makes an impact in your life. And your brother too, he was saying about that teacher that did an acting with one of the students, and everybody in the classroom was shocked.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. I think I think it's a good message what Peterson is saying.
Yeah.
And talking about,
he's very much a Stoic.
right, because teachers believe that they can make a difference,
Sure.
and starting with yourself. Also, not fighting, let's say, the things that you can't control, because those things, they talk about, like, what is it, nature, or the logos, the universe. These are the things that they just happen, right? And they talk about, like, you have to allow things to play out as nature intends them to be. So there's nothing actually that is good or bad. This is what they believe, the Stoic philosophy. Nothing is good or bad. It just is.
Yeah. Well, it takes it's beyond me. Okay?
It's hard. It's hard.
It's difficult.
Yeah, it's difficult.
It's difficult because, for example, let's say, something happens to one of your children, and you always ask yourself, why? Why did that have to happen? And a lot of the Stoics would say, hey, you know what? Because it had to happen. And is there anything within that frame that you could use and look at as positive? And sometimes when you're in the midst of the battle, you can't.
Yeah.
If you just lost somebody that you love, the first thing you say, or many people might, why, God? Why did this have to happen? He was a good man. She was a good woman. Why? Why? Why does this have to happen? And you don't see it. And then what the Stoics say is, something of a seed may be planted in you because of this tremendous hardship that you've gone through. And it may motivate you and push you to do something great with your life.
Right. That nothing happens to anyone that they cannot handle, that person cannot handle the situation. But
It's
again,
difficult.
it's a school of thought.
Oh, it's difficult.
Whether you could actually put it into practice, I mean, it's extremely difficult.
For sure.
So,
but I have seen people, that have gone through severe accidents, like motorcycle accidents and so forth. And when they come out of, they've been in intensive care and, they've gone through hell and back, okay? And when they come out of that, it's like they have a renewal on life. They feel, they change, And because what the Stoics say is, do you confront your own mortality? How many of us confront our own mortality? And what they say in many instances is that very few people do. I mean, you had Marcus Aurelius. He had a slave constantly telling him, "You're only a man. You're only a man." And he had him behind him most of the time and constantly, reminding him, "Hey, you know what? You're only a man." So you're talking about the most powerful man in the world at that time, that he could, take you out. He could tell one of his soldiers, "Hey, you know what? I don't like this man. Go cut his head off." And that kind of power, many people believe that it corrupts. Okay? Yet, this man, the most powerful man in the world at that time, had a slave behind him constantly telling him, that was his job. Hey, you're only a man.
Right, because he was being praised so much. He was everything. He could have anything that he wanted, any of the world pleasures,
Anything.
desires,
Anything.
And so it could make you think like you're a god.
Right.
Right, that's what was happening. They would make these people feel like statues were built, erected of you, and it was like this person is like a god, and he had to remind himself that he's mortal.
Yeah. So he actually had someone that was his whole job in his life. You're only a man.
Now, Marcus Aurelius is known to be one of the greatest emperors. There were apparently 5 great emperors of Rome, and he was known to be, I believe, the last one, actually, because his son comes in and did a lot of destruction.
Destroys everything, right?
Commodus, yeah.
Commodus.
He destroys much of what the father had built. But
and how do you do that? How do you live in the house of a man that's, so self-aware, and you come up with a kid like, how do you say it? Commodus. And he destroys everything that the father built.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
It's a good question. There's theories out there, but I don't know the answer. But obviously he was not a Stoic. Commodus was not a Stoic. But it's interesting how the Romans adopted this philosophy. They continued it from the Greeks, and like Seneca, I believe Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, they're Roman, and so the Romans continued to develop this philosophy and turned it into what we know today. As far as the Stoicism,
right?
how has this philosophy helped you in dealing with, let's say, some of the most difficult things, like the passing of a family member, or the loss of even like financial loss, or dealing with things that don't go the way that you wanted them to go?
Well, it's been a journey, and that journey hasn't ended. I try every day to learn something new, and I tell that to my grandkids. Learn something new every day, and try to improve yourself every day. It's a journey that never ends. Okay, because you think you've gotten to this point, and then something happens and you fall, and then you have to come back up again. So I think we all falter, and if you realize that, then you have a little bit more of introspective that you can fix it. But as I have gotten older, I realized that a lot of the problems or issues that would get my blood pressure a little bit high, 6 months from the day they started, they were no longer a problem. They either resolved themselves or resolved because of other people's actions or some of the stuff that I did, but they're no longer relevant.
Mm.
And so, the weight of the world can be put on a man or on a woman by their own thoughts. Okay? There's a statue out there that I think I've shared with you where, the head it's implying the head is bigger than the rest of the body, and maybe we should put it as a thumb, but
it even needs to rest on like a big old
right, because his
box.
thoughts are the ones that are
weighing him down,
weighing that person down.
He can't even stand up.
He can't even stand
His
up.
head has to lean on this box.
Right. And when you realize that these are the things that you're doing to yourself,
Our thoughts.
okay, then you take a different perspective and you follow a different road, okay. And so I learned that because of my upbringing. I was born in Cuba, a communist country. We were persecuted. We got kicked out of our country. I saw my parents go through a ton of suffering because of that. But a lot of internal strength and character.
Yeah.
Perseverance on my parents. But many people have it. All you have to do is look at the world right now and all the things that are happening all over the place.
Yeah.
Completely unjust, but it's building character and stamina and strength inside people that we're completely unaware of, and they will show that in the future. Hopefully through good deeds. Okay, but as you get older, you realize that all the things that you worry about, it was just a total royal waste of time in many instances.
Yeah, you could have used that energy productively.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Something that comes in on a daily basis and it bothers you and you can't sleep. You can't fall asleep because you started thinking, look, this thing happened. And in business, that happens all the time. It
happened to me the other day.
It happened to you the other day?
Yeah, the other day. Just that my thoughts became my dreams. I was dreaming of, a business deal, and it kept me up. Or sometimes, I've had thoughts, not even allow me to fall asleep.
Okay, well, like in business, like I know one that happened recently where there was a miscommunication between a buyer and the seller. But we're in between, and we gave out the information properly, and one person heard it one way and the other person heard it the other. But we have proof that the communication was done properly. So communication is an art.
Sure.
Now that kept me going for a while until I said to myself, look, the only way to fix it is send out the communication again and make reference to the previous one and show where one person's making an assumption over another thing, and try to clarify it. But it'll get you. If you let it, it will get you.
Right.
It's like Robert Greene was making reference to, your thoughts are like a little guy behind you constantly. And you got the good guy and the bad guy, right? And the bad guy is usually ahead of the good guy. And he's telling you, hey, this little thing, this little thing. So it's a constant, I would not struggle, but alertness. It's a constant alertness where you have to catch yourself. Otherwise, you keep spinning, with the thought and keep going and keep going. And what if this happens? And what if that happens? You have to just catch yourself.
Yeah.
Self-reflection, self-improvement, develop self-patience. Everything about the Stoics is about introspection. And so, but it's difficult to do.
Oh, yeah.
I mean...
But you have to be true to yourself and do the right thing. That's essentially what one of the big things with Stoicism is. You do the right thing. Treat people right. As if we're all like one community. We all need each other.
And we do.
We do. I couldn't find the quote, but there was a quote in Meditations that says something along the lines of like, we need our fellow brother, we need each other, just like the top row of teeth needs the bottom row of teeth.
Wow.
You're not gonna chew anything.
I've never heard that, and I've been reading about this stuff like for years. See, that's amazing.
We need each other.
Yeah.
The top molars need the bottom molars.
Yeah, you can't chew without the...
And I thought, man, that's really interesting, because it's not, I just want to help you or want to work with you. I need to be kind to this person. I need to do the right thing with this person. And again, we're here sharing our thoughts on this, and by no means are we masters of this philosophy.
No, you can think of us at the bottom of the barrel.
But yeah, like for me, the concept of there's no good or bad, for me, that's brutal. I have not been able to completely, actually act that out. Sometimes I say, oh man, too bad this happened. It's like, oh, I'm using the word bad. Why is it too bad that happened? It happened. It was meant to happen. Now I need to overcome this obstacle. And that's another thing. There's a quote talking about obstacles, and you talked earlier about perseverance, and you have to. The opening quote had to do with how you deal with the things you can't control, right? And so one of the things was, just as a fire uses its obstacle, it quenches the obstacles and uses them as fuel. It basically turns an obstacle into fuel. A fire will just take over that house and
gone.
Use it as fuel. But that's initially when something quote unquote bad happens, our mind begins to work at like, why? And why did it happen to me? Like you said, and instead of, how do I overcome this? This was meant to happen. How do I get past this?
Right. And it's difficult because you get placed in situations sometimes unbeknownst to you where you look like the bad guy. And I see it all the time, especially in some of these very lifelike type of episodes in certain series that I'm looking at. And backstabbing is the order of the day. Backstabbing people
in some environments, sure.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I think if you're in
actually, Mike,
shark infested waters.
Well, shark infested waters. It
can happen anywhere.
In the family structure.
Yeah.
In the corporate structure in business, for sure, but in the family structure too. You got families that are split apart because one brother said one thing and the other brother took it bad, and or the sister, you see it all the time, especially when family work together in business.
Yeah, there could be issues. There will be issues. There, no doubt.
Yeah, you just look. The son of this man destroyed what he created, and he was one of the best emperors of Rome, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How does that happen when the guy is living in the same household with this man? What happened? Didn't anything,
Sink into the sun?
into the sun? That's why, and a lot of the Stoic thoughts are really, truly common sense. Because, for example, the most important thing that you can give a child is your time. That's it. Because if you think about it, look at this thing, okay? You see that little sand? The only thing we have is that little speck right there, which is the present.
Right.
The sand that's already down here, that belongs to our past. Those are our memories and our experiences. The sand that's up here is the future. And we don't know if it's going to happen. I mean, I could have a stroke right now and fall over, and then, that's it. It didn't happen. But the only thing that we have is that little tiny speck right there, which is our present. Make the present count. And that's another essence of Stoics. I'm very, very clear of that. Especially as I get older. Look, yesterday I went to see a concert, and the guy that was playing the guitar was 85 years old. And he had a hell of a voice. Tremendous. It was Jefferson's Starship. And, I'm looking at the guy initially, and I see that he's a little slow, but he's still doing great. He's playing the guitar. And then when they give me the guy's history, I felt ashamed.
Wow.
Because I thought, initially when I saw him, I thought, couldn't they get somebody up there a little bit younger? But man, shame on me. You see what I mean? Shame on me.
Well,
the man is, he will wipe the floor with me. 85 years old, playing the guitar. When he got that microphone, he sang like perfect.
Yeah.
And he has been around. They shared a little bit about the history.
That's
in
crazy.
The 60s.
Wow.
In fact, they gave him an offer, and they said, hey, would you like to start this band? It's going to be called the Grateful Dead. And he says, no, I can't, because I'm going to start my own band, and it's going to be called Jefferson Starship.
Wow.
And we're talking about, he was in Egypt when that was offered to him.
Wow.
And so, but when I first looked at the guy, he's older, right? He's got gray hair like I do. And, but he was absolutely awesome. And he taught me a lesson just yesterday.
Yeah.
So you see, I've been reading about the Stoics like for 15 years or something like that. And here I go making judgments on people.
Well, that's the thing. It says a big thing is not to judge people. That's a big one, which that's hard to do.
Oh.
We all make, even the very famous...
Shame on me.
Well, all of us. Even the very famous, quote where we talk about like a first impression. I think there's judgment involved. That's part of, I think, being human. But this is making you like fight against it. I wanted to talk about the present, and like you were saying, that's all we have. You have to make the most of it. Another very important topic with the Stoics is to live a life of fulfillment, where you're actually pursuing what you were meant to do in life. Like, that's a big thing. You're not just supposed to sit around and be lazy and enjoy the fruits of,
Ikigai. The Japanese call it ikigai, right?
Oh, what?
You're saying that the Stoics say you're supposed to pursue and do what you were meant to do in life.
Well, yeah. That's what that means.
How do you find that? Tell me.
Enlighten me. That's the thing, It's like they quote a bird that's there putting together a nest, or an ant that's part of an ant farm, and like they're all like doing what they were meant to do, and they're not questioning. Now we have the ability to think, and they can think too, but we have free will and all these things, right? But part of it is,
so is that done by a hierarchy because you're looking at an ant farm and you're looking at workers, or is it done because it's built into their DNA?
right?
Or is it?
How does this, you look at a web, a spider that's casting a web, it's doing what it's meant to do, and we have to find that in our lives. We have to find what were we put on earth to do.
Yeah, my good friend Jorge gave me a book. It's called Ikigai.
Yeah.
And it's a Japanese old philosophy also.
You have to. So,
and for those of you who don't know what that is, look it up.
Yeah, and by the way, just to give a little perspective, we didn't open with this in the beginning, but when we're talking about the Stoics, and we were talking, this began before BCE. It was somewhere around, I don't think I wrote it down, but it was 300 and something BCE. Just to put a little bit perspective, like Marcus Aurelius. Let me see here. I just want to make sure. Okay, so Zeno of Citium, the Stoic, was 335 BCE. Just to give perspective. That's when 335 BCE. Okay, let me throw a couple of these at you, and just to see what your thoughts are on them. This is a quote from Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. What injures the hive injures the bee. How do you process that one?
I'm not quite sure. I mean,
what injures the hive injures the bee.
They're all in it together.
Yeah.
So
that's what I get out of it too.
They're all in it together, and the sooner we realize that we're all in this together too on this earth, we throw a bomb over there on the other side of the earth, it's going to affect us.
Everything is connected.
That radiation is going to come out this way.
Right, because the bee.
Shouldn't we find a solution to our problems?
Right. The bee might think, hey, I'm not getting hurt in this process, right? As an individual. But what injures the hive injures the bee.
Yeah, we're all in this together, and we're all gonna either profit together, survive together, or we're all going down together,
Yeah. Here's another one. That every event is the right one. Look closely and you'll see. Not just the right one overall, but right. As if someone weighed it out with scales.
Wow. It's amazing.
Every event is the right one.
See, that goes with what you were saying, that what happens is not just bad or good, it just is. Every event that happens is the right one. It was supposed to happen. And, it's deep.
Yeah.
How do you, again, a lot of times you think, well, some of these ideas are common sense, right? But when you listen to something like this, you really have to dissect it, and you really have to study it, because we could talk for hours on that.
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of time we think we should be in a certain place by a certain time. We think, we're comparing to other people.
Yeah.
Or
your goals,
or something that we wanted we weren't able to attain, and we think that maybe we're ruined, or in that moment we didn't make it. But this is a different perspective, because this is saying that no, that was meant to happen. You were meant to fail at that. And I think that's why if you give something everything of you and you failed, that you can sleep at night that you gave it everything.
You think?
I think so. and then you get up again and you continue to pursue. You don't fall there. But yeah, I think in theory this is how it should. There are flaws, I would say, to this belief too, because some of this stuff I don't know that in real life, I don't know that we're able to do.
Well, when you see the challenge in somebody else, it's different.
Sure.
And I think that the judgment comes into play. When you are being challenged and you feel it in your own skin, and that's when you really step up to the plate and you show your character, what you're really made out of.
Yeah.
Are you
man or a mouse?
Yeah, exactly. What separates man from yeah. Because look, while you were reading that, you know what came to mind? I wish I could know this young couple's name, but it's a skating young couple, and they were trying to win the gold, and 1 year she messed up, and they got bronze, not even silver. And they went back at it again, and they practiced for an entire season, which I think it's a full year. And they went back to the competition. And then something else happened again. And they didn't get gold. They got, a very low medal. And then they went back again. And they practiced again. And they went back to the competition. And for 4 years, something went wrong. And for 4 years, they made a mistake. Either she did or he did. But it took 4 years. And then on the 5th year, okay, they had perfected everything. Like she made a mistake, or when he would throw her in the air and she's twirling up in the air as she comes down, it has to be with grace and pose, and the legs have to, but if you fall, okay, and anything could happen, but they had perfected it. Wow. And they won the gold on the 5th year.
Wow.
Okay? But it took them 5 years of practice. They messed up, And so, how do you deal with that? When you work so hard, when you have cramps in your legs because
they made it.
Pushing yourself. Yeah, but they didn't know they were going to get there on 2nd year. And the 3rd year's got to be a bummer. And the 4th one, too. They made it on the 5th.
I mean, the mental strength is unbelievable.
Incredible, And that's what separates the man from the mouse, And we're going to be put to test.
Sure.
Every single one of us, somewhere through our journey in life.
Yes.
And then hopefully we can make the right decision and feel good about ourselves and come up on top. Remember this. Happiness depends on the quality of your thoughts. I've lived by that for quite a while, because there's been certain instances when I go to bed and I can't come to terms with an issue that I have, and then I remember this. Happiness, depends on the quality of your thoughts. So I hack my own thoughts. If some of you think that I need a psychiatrist, you're probably right. You're probably right. Because, you have to catch yourself going into that spiral so that you can get some sleep. This is really not important. What's important right now? I need to get some rest. My body needs to rest, regenerate. These cells need to relax. I need to get up tomorrow morning with strength and vigor to take on the day. So if I spend all night woken by this silliness, and so what's more important at this moment? Your priorities you must set straight.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we started talking about this, Mike. It was your idea, your idea, and we could do Fridays, for the Stoics. There'll be a tremendous amount of material, and it'll make us grow.
Well, what's also cool is that there are many schools of thought. You have the Stoics, you have the Cynics, right? You have the Plato's school of thought.
Mm-hmm.
You have all these different, so you can take a little bit from each one and try and figure out.
It'll take a lifetime.
Yeah, but
Because as I was going through the Stoics, I came across all kinds of material that, and I'm sure you did too.
oh, there's so much out there. There's so much out there. But
This is our first podcast
this is our first on the Stoics, and I think it was great. This is good. Anything else you want to throw in?
The idea is that we're gonna review and do a lot of research, and every Friday we come up with some Stoic philosophy that hopefully can help people out there. And in the process, we become better
Stoic
people.
or maybe another. It doesn't have to be only Stoic. We don't have to stay in that realm.
Okay.
Because there's so much. But like you said, there could be. We could spend a lifetime on that. But yeah, I would say we'd be open because it's
Sure.
only one philosophy, and who's to say that it's the right one?
Well, a lot of people seem to be very much interested in it because it's for every self-reflection, self-improvement, self-patience. Everything is.
It definitely.
It's looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
It's like that song from Michael Jackson. If you want to change the world, look at the man in the mirror.
Start with the man in the mirror. Yep.
Start with the man in the
Mhm.
mirror. You know that. I mean, how?
Yeah.
That's as stoic as it comes, right? Don't you think?
Yeah.
So anyway,
Cool. Thank you.
all right.
We'll
Thank
wrap
you.
it up.